Okay, it's recording now. So, hi,
Awesome.
thanks for agreeing to meet with me.
Hi, of course.
Okay, so I just have a few questions about like your career and, well, like kind of, I don't know, just you. I don't really know.
Okay, sure.
So, the first question I wanted to ask you was how old were you when you had your first job?
I was 16.
All right, why did you start working when you were 16?
My mom told me I needed to get a job when I was 16. I looked all the summer I was turning 16, couldn't find one, then got a job in March.
Where'd you
So
work?
I worked doing telephone jobs, doing mortgages online.
Cool. Um, One question I was wondering is, did you ever consider doing like community college or anything like that?
I went to community college for a couple of semesters, didn't do like a full-time schedule. It did a few hours and it just wasn't for me. I was done with school. I did a few classes here and there, but
Yeah.
nah,
That's totally fine. I think that it's an individual decision for sure.
of
Like,
course.
even in high school, I feel like they'd just be like, you can go to college, but there's tons of other routes, and they just talk about getting a career and doing what's best for you. So I think that's great.
Hmm.
I was wondering, how many jobs have you had in the past?
Well, let's see. One, two. So my first job, Discover Card, Target, 411, the census, and this job now. So I've had seven. I've had six.
Awesome. That's actually crazy. I did not know you've had six. Um,
Yes.
why? Why have you had six?
Well, my first job, I got laid off because they were downsizing. Then I worked at Discover Card for a really long time. And that job, I got I quit that job because things weren't working out and I couldn't find anything. It was during the recession and I couldn't find a job. So I worked at Target seasonally. And then I did 411 for about a month. It was horrible because you were taking like 600 phone calls a day.
Wow.
And then I did the census project, and that was a temporary project. And I wasn't going to hop, skip, and job between jobs. And
Right.
I always wanted to work in healthcare. And I got the job that I have now, and I've been there for 10 years.
That's awesome. I think that the career experience is super cool. Something we've talked about in this class recently is that your career isn't just like your job, it's more of like your life path. It's not even just jobs, it's kind of just what makes up your life. And I think that having all those experiences is super cool, and just being able to
Mm-hmm.
have a diverse career path, I think is really cool.
Yes, it does definitely help for sure.
And then one thing you said was you always wanted to work in healthcare.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that?
I've always been really responsive to helping people, not just selling them things or giving them things. I've always been really responsive to helping people. And I wasn't going to go to college to be a nurse or something like that. And so doing what I do now is really cool because I can still help a lot of people, and use my customer service skill set that I developed over, 15 years of working.
Right.
Um, and be able to help people in the way that I can help them and where I'm the most knowledgeable.
Yeah, which is super interesting. I like how you talked about your customer service, and I feel like you've probably built that up over all the things that you've
Yeah.
had the opportunity to do. It's just kind of become something you do. You don't really go into it knowing how to do that. You have to kind of learn on the job, and I think that's a really really interesting and kind of a cool skill to be able to have, and I think it's super valuable. So that's
Yeah. Yeah, you really do for sure.
um will you tell me kind of like a brief synopsis about what you currently do?
So what I currently do, I work for a company that's nationally known as HCA. It's a Health Hospital Corporation of America.
Mhm.
And I primarily do a lot of scheduling in like Texas, in the South, and in the Nashville area. A person goes to an urgent care clinic or they go to the emergency room and they need follow-up care with a specialist, even a regular doctor. And I contact them and help them get an appointment scheduled to see the doctor they need to be seen by, lining up their insurance, their location, and when they need to be seen.
That's cool. I think that that definitely kind of goes along with what you said, how you like to help people. And you also mentioned that you don't just want to sell them things, you kind of want to do something that's meaningful. And I think that, especially in the healthcare world, at least from my experience so far, it's kind of confusing.
Yeah,
And I think it's really cool that you get the opportunity to kind of be an ally to these people who might need some help. I think that's a really cool opportunity.
thank you.
How did you find this job? Like, were you
I
searching
was
for?
looking online. I was looking on different hospital websites in the area, trying to see if they had anything. I had, at the time, probably was deep in my applications, and the time I had probably applied for over 500 different positions. And I had, was able to get into this. They had just barely posted the position online and interviewed and was able to get the process going very quickly.
That's really cool. I think it's interesting that you have all this experience with applying. Like you said, you've applied for tons and tons of jobs. And I think
Mhm,
that's kind of a good experience. You get to build a network
mhm,
and kind of get to know how it works. I feel like it's a good base to like go into the professional world with, knowing how an application process works and an interview
mhm.
process. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, it really is. You have to keep you have to keep your resume up to date.
For sure. We just had the opportunity to make a LinkedIn profile as one of our assignments in this class, which I've never
Mhm,
done before. I don't even have a resume because the only job I had was working with my mom at the dental office, and I don't really need
mhm.
a resume for that. but
No,
um but I think that actually having a LinkedIn profile has been helpful so far. I've been able to make
yes,
network and kind of make connections and kind of see the
yes.
benefits of having a good resume and actually have
Mhm.
more skills than I thought I did, which is interesting.
Yes, yes. It's good to find those undiscovered things.
Yeah, it kind of makes you think about yourself in a different way than you have before.
Hmm.
Um, so out of all the jobs you've had, which one has been your favorite one and why?
The job I currently have now, like I've mentioned, I don't have to interview. I mean, I don't have to sell anybody anything. I've had my ups and downs, working for the company, but the job itself is my favorite. Being able to help guide people in a very stressful situation. You know, I find a lot of value in what I do, even though it might not be the most hard thing to do. I find a lot of value in it because I'm able to help a lot of people, get them connected to things. Even if I'm not able to schedule them with anything, I'm able to help them, get to in the next steps, or at least to make sure that they're doing okay and getting the proper care and answers.
Right, I like that a lot. I like how you talked about values because I think we have to we are talking in class how we have to find what matters the most to us. And so you kind of
Hmm.
have to balance what you're passionate about in life. And even if it's not something that's necessarily traditional, you have to decide
Hmm.
if that's what's best for you. And ultimately that should really be the only thing that matters, I'm coming to learn. Really shouldn't
Yes.
necessarily care too much what other people think.
Right.
And then I really like that you said that you help people take the next step. I think that that's an important thing in life in general, being able to take the
Hmm.
next step. And I think that's a cool opportunity that you get to have to do that.
Thank you.
Um, so what would you say is the hardest thing about like changing your job path?
Well, definitely working with new people, getting to know the different people that you work around. The company policies and things like that, they're very interchangeable for the most part. Getting to know the job itself can be very difficult, but a lot of things can be similar. The biggest challenge I've had personally is dealing with the different personalities of people in different work environments.
Sure, I think that can definitely be a challenge getting to know the people you work with. It's also, I would probably assume, kind of hard to get to know like your coworkers, especially when you change jobs and kind of building a relationship with them, especially if you've changed jobs several times. I imagine that's pretty stressful, right?
Yes, it is. I had a manager liken it to like a death. It can be like a death.
Yeah, that does not sound the most pleasant. Um,
No, but you got to roll with the punches.
yeah, definitely. And I think that having had the opportunity to have different careers and learn these different skills, you're definitely preparing yourself in life in a way to roll with the punches, as you said. I think
Mhm.
it's kind of a good way to build that skill and be able to kind of change and not be so like set. And I think that's pretty good skill that you've been able to build.
Thank you.
So you talked a little bit about your past careers, obviously, and some of them were just temporate. What is the word? Temporal and
Temporary.
temporary. Yes, thank you. And like the seasonal work and stuff. And I was wondering things that weren't temporary. Why did you decide to change?
Well, when I started working for 411, doing directory assistance, when that was more of a thing, um, at first, the pay is always a very big deal. The pay
True.
was pretty low. It was only $8 an hour. Even if you didn't join the union, you had to deal with the unions, and that can be very beneficial, but it can also be hard to deal with if you don't want to deal with it. The shift was split, so I would go in for 4 hours, leave for 2 to 4 hours, and go back for an additional 4 hours. So I was spending more money in gas than I was making, and it wasn't very pleasant. You had no interaction with the people on the phone that you spoke to. You were fielding anywhere between 600 to 800 phone calls a day.
Wow.
So the pay was horrible, and it just was, I wasn't content, only getting that amount of money for that amount of work.
Sure, that sounds actually really terrible,
It
especially
was.
the driving back and forth.
I was only there for about a month.
Yeah, I can see why. I
Yeah,
would not enjoy that.
no.
I was wondering, how long do you think that you'll be at this job? You already said that you really like it, so, you know.
I'm hoping to, anything can change and on its head at any time. I'm hoping to have, work there for the rest of my working life. Rather that's, I'm only 35 now, rather it's another 30 years or, whatnot, but I would like to stay there for the rest of my work life.
Sure, I think that's really good. And what would you say are like the core values that you look for in like an employer? Like what is the most important to you when finding a job?
When finding a job for me, it is where my passions lie. So, like with helping people, making sure that, obviously I'm going to have the appropriate pay. You have to have that in order to motivate you to even show up to work.
Right.
That they're an honest company, that they're going to be able to, I like a bigger company to work for. I don't like smaller companies to work for.
Mhm.
That they're honest and that they are going to treat me fairly, but also, keep me going, keep me motivated to do more. So, honesty, money, keeping to the core the core values of things. And that can change depending on, your managers that you're under, you at given different times. You have to reevaluate, yourself out of a certain company at certain different times of your life to decide if they're lining up with what you want and what you want to put up with.
Sure, I think that that's actually really insightful. It also it's insightful in the way that it talks about like your employer, but also your own personal values. And I think
Mhm.
that it's really good to be aware of what you personally feel is good for you,
Right,
and kind
of
of
course.
have a solid like framework for your own passions and beliefs. And I think that what you were talking about, I really like that you seem to have found that for the most part, I'd say, and
Mhm.
also are like sticking to that and not like not just, I don't know, working to work. I feel like you kind of have a good good passion and good skill set built up.
Yes, I do too. Thank you.
Um, So, would you say that in the past, when you've had to have a career change, you felt comfortable changing careers, or was it something that put you out of your comfort zone a little bit?
It was definitely something that put me out of my comfort zone, but still kept me along the same thing I knew, the customer service, doing phones. is where I knew I could continue to do what I could do so I could still, make decent money instead of starting in a completely different field
Sure.
of work. When I went from, like the financial sector, which is what Discover Card was and Convergys was, into the healthcare field, it was a big change because they don't do the same things. There's no holidays in the medical field. You have to adjust to that. And so, for me, when I was looking for employment, I would look for what I knew I could make decent money in, but also, trying to change the sector I was in, whether it was from financial to healthcare, or if I had ever had to go back to one to the other, finding what would work. But when you do go from two different fields of work, you have to know that there's different things going on within them. And you have to be willing to make those changes. Otherwise, you're going to sink before you swim.
Right. And I think that can be hard, right? Being put into a new environment and kind of being like, wow, I kind of don't know what's going on. And that's been something that, at least for me, has been like a challenging idea. The idea of kind of being in an environment where I don't actually know what's going on and I really have no experience is something that's kind of daunting. But I think it's probably, I would say it's a good experience to be put into something you don't know what you're doing. And would you say that it's been rewarding overall to like build these skills and gain this life experience?
Oh yes, definitely, for sure. I mean, every day is a new challenge, and sometimes it's even more fun to be thrown into things that you have no idea what you're going to do. But yes, definitely, it can be very daunting when you have no idea what you're going to do with this or with that. But as time goes on, you do get more ability to handle more things, whether it's in life or employment. You do find the skill sets in which to handle those things and to be able to adapt to the situations and adapt to them quickly.
Yeah, I really like that. Especially you said adapting. I really think that that's a good skill to have. And I know I've said it's a good skill to have, but just from listening to you like talk about your experiences, I think that it's kind of like it's been an eye opener because you do have these life skills and things that you normally might not associate, but it's like super super cool to hear all the things that you've been able to do and see the things that you've been able to build and kind of strengthen yourself as a person also. I think that that's really cool.
Thank you.
um so I was wondering, what advice would you give someone who is just starting out in like the professional world?
The best thing I can tell you to do is to, as you're developing your skills, take every criticism, whether it's a rejection at a job, or even if you get a job and the criticisms, that come flying your way, take them not as harsh as they could be. Take them as building blocks to make every interaction, whether it's with an employee or or a customer or whatnot, as a bigger focus. Take every opportunity you can to build on yourself. I mean, when you're working, yes, you have to have your private and your professional, but your private life is going to help influence your professional life quite a bit. So the stronger you can have your private life and your values that you feel strongly about or strong, you have a strong self-confidence, you can build on that professionally, and you can be even stronger, with your core values and keeping what you feel is good for you to do in your professional life.
Sure. I really like that. And I think that the connection between a personal life and like a career is actually closer than we think it is. As I've been pondering things that I kind of want to do in my life, I've realized that I have to weigh in like if I want a family, I really want to travel, like you already know. And I want to have friends and I want to have life experiences rather than just have like this massive career that takes all my time. And I think that that actually ties in your personal life more than you think it would, so that
Mhm.
you take in those values and apply it to your career,
Very
which
much so.
I think it can be challenging. I found it kind of challenging, especially picking a major. I'm like, "Oh, what
Mhm.
if I'm just gonna be forced into a direction I don't want to be forced into?" So it's been kind of
Mhm.
hard for me to pick a major, but
Right. Well, you're going to be put in situations career-wise where you don't agree with the choices that you're forced to make, and the things that you have to implement or the tasks that you have to do are not going to be you're not going to be something that you like. But you have to live with it and you have to deal with it for a while until you either get the different skill set to move on, or you're able to change your situation.
right.
Like with your major, if your major ended up needing to be changed for whatever reason, to have the courage to do that, but to also have the patience to sit and wait for something better to come along, and to be able to keep your mindset on a set goal and be willing to change it on a dime so that you can adapt and find a different path, even if you hate the path you're on, but you can find a way to get to a better one.
Right. Sometimes you have to maybe do something that doesn't seem super fun in order to get a little further. Like I'm looking at some jobs to apply to that I don't actually love, but it's a way to make money. It's a way to build my resume, and it's a way to like kind of establish myself. So I'm thinking of applying for them, even though I don't necessarily love like cleaning or whatever. I think that you kind of have to suck it up and do those entry things in order to build a nice portfolio for yourself.
Yes, definitely.
Um, do you feel like changing where you work from time to time can be beneficial overall? Like instead of having like a stagnant environment, do you think it could be a beneficial thing for some people?
Yes, I definitely do. Some people do not do good with just one stagnant thing the entire time. They do really good with the change. Whether you change companies altogether, or you change departments, or even if you change how you approach the job,
Hmm.
it is good to have that change. I've been doing pretty much the same thing for 10 years, but I've changed departments a couple of times. I have had different responsibilities come and go. I mean, sometimes I do feel what I'm doing is a little stagnant, but I'm okay with that. But for some people, they need a different change of pace. They need a different challenge. And it's really good to do that. You have to decide for you what you want to do. If you're okay, like me, having a stagnant job, where you have different challenges that you create yourself, or if you want the change of pace, you have to decide for you if that's something you want to do, and if that's the risk that you want to take, if you are comfortable with that or not. You have to be able to decide for you. But for some people, definitely, to answer your question, they need to have a different change of pace.
Definitely. And I like how you said that you can kind of come with a different approach to the job, even if you've been doing it for a little while. You can come in with a different attitude or a different way that you want to do it. I think that's actually something I'd never considered. You don't just have to do it the same way constantly, and especially I feel like our world changes all the time, and it's really good to change with it, and to have a
Yes, for
good
sure.
base, even if you're doing the
Hmm.
same thing. So that's
Hmm.
that's really cool. Um, Do you think you would do anything differently looking back on like past work experiences or like schooling, anything like that?
Schooling wise, probably not. School was never something I cared about. I got out of high school and I was done. But career wise and everything, I might have approached things with more maturity,
Hmm.
with more of a level head, finding, paths that weren't so hard on me, not just professionally hard on me, but privately hard on me, being able to distinguish the two and separate the two a lot better, but being a lot more mature with my career path and with my interactions with people, even if it led me to the same spot I am now. I would rather, if I could go back, I would rather, approach things with a lot more maturity and more professionalism.
I think that that's interesting because I don't feel like I'm that young, but obviously I'm only 19, and I feel like when you look at people who have like a diversified career experience, or especially people who have been working just for a while, they definitely have a different mindset than I do, I've noticed, about work. They're much more like professional, like you said, and mature. And I think that that takes having experience a little bit in order to figure out how you want to approach your career experiences, or else you're just not going to end up where you want it to be. And I think it's also interesting that like in the professional world, there are so many like different careers and different paths, and some in like an artsy field, being professional is completely different than in like a law field, which I think is interesting. So you kind of have to find that balance of being professional and mature for where you are. So I really like that insight.
Thank you.
Is there anything else you feel like I should know, or anything you want to add about careers or your own experiences or anything like that?
Well, I think that we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to find something that you love to do. Sure. It can be, that's a lot of pressure to put on yourself. You can find something that you like, or something that you're genuinely content with, and you're able to have a good career, maybe not have, the best example, the best career ever, and be totally in love with your job. You'd work for free. There's too much pressure put on that to be perfect in a job, to find the best job in the world. You can be perfectly content where you're working and only work there for a short time. You can find a job that you can tolerate and get from point A to point B kind of a job. You don't have to do anything, for a very long time. Like you said, if you, with any temporary jobs over the summer or in the spring that you get, they're just to get you from point A to point B. Yeah. You still need to approach them with maturity and to be sincere in the job, because the people that you interact with, whether it's your coworkers, your employer, or customers, they'll know if you're not being sincere. And if you're just, sneering at the job, they will know that. So to approach every single job and every single day like you do in your own private life, spiritual life, knowing that you can do better every single day, and try to, keep your head about you and not get so frustrated about things. Know full well that you will have issues down the road. You will have employers and you will have customers that, you're just like, why am I talking to this human? I don't like humans, you get tired of that, but taking some of the pressure off of yourself as well, knowing that, you find a job that you really like and you're content, even if it takes you 10 years to find it. I mean, I've been working since I was 16. I'm 35 now. So I've been working a very long time, and it's taken me, it took me, all the way up until 10 years ago to find a job I was content with. And even then I've only been very content with it for the past 6 years. And so it just knowing that you will have those issues down the road and take some pressure off of the choices that you're going to make, and just know you are going to make some crappy career choices, but you will find something that you like. If you're one of the lucky ones that finds something that you love, great. But if you can find something that you're okay with, then be okay with it.
Sure. And I think that's those things that you find yourself doing that may not have been exactly what you want to be doing, but you kind of have to do them. I think that they're kind of good stepping stones for where you want to end up. And I think that that's the experience that you've had. You may not have super loved everything that you did, but at least you learned that you didn't love it, right? Like,
right.
That's definitely got to be a bonus, because sometimes, like in my experience, I feel like I don't necessarily know what I don't like all the time, especially when it comes to a career, since I haven't established myself that way. So I think that it's really cool that you've learned what you don't like. I think that that can be a valuable thing to take into looking for a job, and ultimately that like fulfillment.
Thank you. And you will find, whether it's a, career, or you will find, a job, you will find your place. It just may take some time. I mean, like you said, you have not had a job yet, but you are learning through making a LinkedIn account that you have these different skill sets. So if you thought about applying to one job, you realize that, hey, I have this other skill set I might be able to explore. And you found out that you have this other skill set, so you will get to that point. Everybody has to have their first job, rather it's, helping at the dentist office. That still gave you a skill set that you could use, rather it was a job or not. So you will find things, that, it's just going to take time, whether you do that, right now or in the summertime or not. You will find it. It just is going to, and it might not be what you like, but you will be able to tolerate it and get from point A to point B.
Definitely. I really like that. And I think that can be applied in a lot of different areas of your life, just trying to find who you are and find what you want to be.
For sure.
Well, those are all of the prepared questions that I have. So unless you want to add anything else, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.
Nope.